numbers, and I haven't done that yet to see if it's an uptick in the numbers or what it is, right? I just know a year ago we elected Donald Trump to help save this nation once again, and he is once again keeping promises that he made, promises kept. So I'm going to stay focused on that. We'll talk about the election today with our guest a little bit. My concern is even bigger than who won the election is what kind of voters voted for people who have no allegiance to our Constitution. That's my heartache over all of this. And so we'll talk about that more with our guest. So you can watch the show. Thank you for joining in every weekday at noon Central Time on WVWTV.com. You can also get the archives. They're 7 days. They're complimentary. Share them with your friends, with those who need the message. And then they go to worldviewtube.com/vault, where you have a paywall, yes. But with that subscription, you get all the archives to our shows as well as all of Brandon's. So well worth your subscription price, just Brandon's alone. So you can do that at worldviewtube.com/vault. All right, I want to introduce our guest. First joining me is Dr. Stephen Kirby. Dr. Stephen Kirby is a PhD and an author. He's spoken about Islam across the state and maybe even more than that I know. But he's written 5 or 6 books, I think, on Islam.
Right.
6, Understanding Islam. And it's not just, here's what I like about Steve. He stays with what the imams have said, what the Quran has said. He can verify it and justify anything he's written. Steve, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, Tamara. It's great to be with you.
Always love having you on. Also joining us is Anni. Anni Cyrus is joining us. Anni, welcome to the show. No stranger to our network. You have your own show. Tell our viewers what it is.
Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I am live, and then Thursdays and Friday are the best of. 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, my friends, first off, let's head into it. Election night last night. Not necessarily what I would call a blue blowout. It's kind of what we expected. Your thoughts?
I agree with your introductory comments. Some of the media is trying to hype this as a disaster for the Republicans, but like you said, blue states, what do you expect to happen in blue states? So to me, they can hype what they want, but we still need to be realistic that it wasn't a big blowout that the media, and I think probably a lot of the Democrats are trying to make it to be.
If Republicans would have taken those seats, that's your headline, right?
Oh yeah.
We lost. Youngkin was a Republican. We didn't get Winsome Sears. I don't understand. She's a fabulous individual, great leadership veteran. I would have loved to have her in there, but it's Virginia. Virginia has always been a little too close to DC, and people in Virginia will tell you it's the part that's close to DC that destroys it and pollutes it for the rest of the state. Anni, your thoughts?
I would agree on that point of view. However, on the green wave of things, it has been concerning for me. By green, I mean the Islamic movement.
We'll get there. We will get. I think that's when I said my concern is people who will vote for someone who has absolutely no allegiance to our Constitution, to the state Constitution, to our Constitution, to our Judeo-Christian foundations as a nation. What kind of people vote to put someone in office that has made it known much of what we hold dear, he will smear? Anni?
With Mamdani specifically, because we had 2 Muslims coming in, but with Mamdani, my point of view has been, one, when we think Muslim population of certain areas are minority, we need to also realize they become the voting base. And then also, a huge part of the votes, I shouldn't say huge, part of the votes are Americans, Tamara, who have decided to hate America. They will vote, not just Mamdani, but any other Democrat, socialist, Muslim, Democrat only, socialist only, the combination. They will vote for them because they share the hatred for America, its history, its foundation, and its constitution. It's not just the Muslims. It's not just even Democrats. I know Republican Jews who voted for Mamdani yesterday. I personally know 2 of them.
That's astounding.
But they want to prove that they're not some Islamophobe. So they go and vote for a Muslim to prove they're not Islamophobe. Some people vote to prove they're not racist.
Right. The shame game. And so that's what it's not peer pressure, it's fear pressure at that point. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be seen as something we're not. I think you raise an excellent point there, Annie. Steve, you want to comment? And then I want to play a video for all of you.
Actually, I agree. I was just thinking about Ilhan Omar there in Minnesota when she got elected to Congress. I thought that it was because of all the Somalis there in the Minneapolis area. And actually, it's been some years since I read about it, but actually there weren't that many Somalis who were voting or could vote. And it was a big Democrat push to get her elected. So I agree with Annie. There's a lot of, and I'll be right up front. Democrats, they will vote for a Muslim over a Republican. I think it's just that simple. And Democrats, as a general rule, have a different attitude towards the United States than Republicans do. And it's more of a let's remake the United States. And a lot of Democrats also consider Muslims as minority groups. So they're very sympathetic to a Muslim running for office. So it's there's a lot of support for the Muslims, and whether or not they want to abide by they will abide by the Constitution because the law requires it, but whether they really want to abide by the Constitution is another issue. And I think it's irrelevant for a lot of Democrat voters and a lot of folks that are new to the United States.
Yeah, I wish I could be as optimistic as you, Dr. Kirby. I'm not convinced they will abide by it. I'm not convinced whether Republican or Democrat, some of our legislators are always abiding by it, right? I laugh and I say I want a government that's small enough to fit in my Constitution, and we're out of it in so many ways. But and I want to clarify for our viewers. Annie, is it fair to say that you are a Sharia survivor? Is that a fair thing to say?
I am a Sharia survivor. Yes, absolutely.
So you have grounds on which to speak. Dr. Kirby, you've written 6 books on understanding Islam. And so you both have the expertise on which to speak about this. So I want to be clear. This is not an anti-statement to anyone who may have a Muslim faith. But what we're talking about on this show, what I'm talking about, is the ideology of the militant and the political Islam, which is a radical or a violent, often violent Islam. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yes, and if I could go
Annie,
ahead.
go. Yep. Annie, you go. Yep.
If I could, I agree that, I share the optimism from Dr. Kirby. However, we need to realize a lot of what is happening within Muslim communities is protected by our Constitution under First Amendment. That's where the conflict and problem starts. They don't necessarily, they are committing acts that goes against our Constitution. However, they're hiding it under the protection of religion because they don't admit to the political side, the Sharia side of things. They just push it under Islam. So that is where the biggest tangle it's going to happen. That's where we're going to face the biggest problem. Because Mamdani could easily do a lot of things and just hide it under his protection of First Amendment.
Yeah, and then cry Islamophobe, right? That's the first thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Dr.
Yeah, actually, I disagree with you on the term radical Islam.
Okay.
On October 7th, when Hamas invaded Israel and committed the atrocities, that was supported by Islamic doctrine. In fact, first part of 2024, I wrote a 3-part article about that, and it was published in Jihad Watch. And I believe the title was Hamas on October 7th, Teachings of Islam on Display. And I look at the various atrocities, killing innocent people, raping the women, just slaughter. And I showed the Islamic doctrinal basis for each one of those acts. So what Hamas did on October 7th was not radical. It had everything to do with traditional historical Islamic doctrine. And my feeling was what we saw on October 7th was what the world has seen over the centuries to varying degrees, depending on the power relationship between Islam and the non-Muslim countries around them.
Yep. So thank you.
I would say that's, I'm sorry, just one sentence. What I've been recently suggesting, because as you know, I don't use the term radical or moderate either. However, to make the point you're trying to make, you can say activated Muslims versus deactivated Muslims.
So and some people call it extremism. Now, do you agree with that one or no?
No.
I mean, saying extremism, it's kind of like saying Sharia law. It's repetitive. Sharia means Islamic laws, so you don't say Islamic law. You don't say extremism Muslims or radical Islam or extreme Islam because that's repetitive. Islam, by definition, is radical.
Some people call it devout. These are the devout. These, because you've got your moderates who don't know what's going on, just like you have your lukewarm Christians who don't know what's going on. But
but there's no option of being devout in Islam. In Quran, it says if you do not commit jihad with your wealth, money, or your life, you are not considered Allah's favorite Muslim.
That's where I was going. Gabrielle, in that one speech, when the one lady says, "What about us? Those of us who are peaceful?" She said, "What about you? You will be the enemy of them as much as we are. You do nothing to stop them, and you'll be the ones they kill, just like they kill us." Or
you become activated like them when it's needed.
There you go.
That's why I use the deactivate and activate. Those who are not committing the jihad today, first of all, they're still funding it because even as the deactivate Muslim, they are still paying their Islamic tax. That money, portion 5% goes to jihad anyways. So they're still funding it. But even if you don't consider that into the formula, they're just deactivated. When it comes to it and they're forced, they could activate themselves and join the jihad, or they can stay deactivated and become, dead
Which
people.
We saw in Gaza when we hear that Gazans went with Hamas. Gazans went with and raped and pillaged and killed. We hear that. So
you see on the videos, young boys looting, stealing things from Jewish homes while the Jewish people are bleeding on the floor.
And the ones who didn't go along were likely, remember, after the peace deal, before it was even signed and before the hostages were even back with their families, Hamas was killing people in Gaza who were civilians, who they didn't feel we were activated with them. There you go. All right, we've got to go to our first break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned to Tamara Scott Show, Anni, Cyrus, and Dr. Stephen Kirby.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed.
All right, everybody. And we tell you about our Bella Grace. The Bella Grace, a slender little sachet that almost disappears, but inside it is the collagen cat's claw and astaxanthin together. Got an award in 2022 for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. The best is what we hear from all of you. Many of you noticed helping with your joint health, improved mobility, helping with your stress management, your improved immunity, endurance, less fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, gut health, and focus. Then some of you noticed that it helped you with your eye strain, with your visual acuity, depth perception, and alleviating dry eyes. I noticed that. But until some of you mentioned it to me, I didn't quite put it together. I'd been wondering what the difference was. And then there's the fun list. Firmer and smoother skin, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decrease age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduce oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Call it beauty if you wish. Maybe it's a byproduct of being healthier. You can find more information at Tamara, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com. Tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, and it comes to your door. You don't have to go to the store. I think that is one of my favorite things about this, besides the benefits that I noticed. All right, coming back. Dr. Stephen Kirby, and Anni, Cyrus. Dr. Kirby, you didn't get a chance to weigh in on that last portion. I'll give you a chance to weigh in, and then I'll go to that video I was going to show.
Okay, yeah, I like Annie's terminology, activated, deactivated, because when I make presentations, I always talk about, okay, you have a nice Muslim neighbor or your nice Muslim coworker wouldn't do this kind of stuff. And I say simply, well, that's fine. But your nice Muslim neighbor isn't being a good Muslim because he's not following the teachings of Islam. But, and I stress this, just because he ignores those teachings right now doesn't invalidate those teachings. And anytime he wants, he can return to those teachings. As I don't know if you recall back at, 2000, well, sometime back in San Bernardino, California, when the Muslim county worker came in with his wife that he'd brought over from overseas and shot up his coworkers at the Christmas party. And when these coworkers had earlier put on a baby shower for his wife. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's the perfect example right there. Just because they don't follow it right now doesn't mean it invalidates it and doesn't mean they can't return to it. Activate, deactivate.
Annie, you win the day on that one. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Let's go to the video. It is video 3 I want to show, and I'm assuming this happened last night. Wall Street Apes, but we've played Wall Street Apes Expos on this show the last couple of days when they exposed the 3rd grade curriculum that's being forced on students to talk about sex in the classroom in Michigan. We talked about that yesterday, and you should watch that video, everybody. But let's go to this video. I believe it happened last night in New York, but I don't have a date. All right, let's go.
We're done hiding. We're done. We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all.
Let's stop right there. To you.
This video is actually, Tamara, just for your audience, this event took place in early March of this year. Okay. That's where the video is from.
So was this when Mandami first voiced his, does it have anything to do with his campaign?
No, none, no.
All right. So I'm going to jump forward to 41 in this. Let's jump forward to 41.
There is no God worthy of worship except Allah, the God of Jesus, the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, and the God of the last and final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
All right, and I forgot, let's go back to 15. Let's just play the one line at 15 where he says, we'll stop. We will not stop. Let's start at 15.
Stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it.
Right there. All right. So Annie, you've already seen this then. They're not going to stop till they're in every home. Does a win like last night in New York City embolden this behavior? I think of all the election outcomes, that might concern me more than others.
Yes, last night results, absolutely. Every time a single Muslim is elected, there is a step further for them to gain momentum, become emboldened and braver, as they call themselves, to continue to conquer. However, what this guy, this imam is saying in this video is he's not making it up. I want to be very clear. He is not making this up. This is Quran. This is Sirah. This is Hadith. The last hour will arrive when every breathing human is a Muhammadian, a Muslim. So just in case if somebody might think, okay, this guy is a Sunni or a Shia or a Wahhabi and made it up and mistranslated, they're teaching it's the truth. And yes, Mamdani's win just gave them more, as I said, green wave of last night, green wave we're about to face in midterm. They have established most of the jihad steps, and starting Obama, the political jihad has started, and they need to finish it. They need to become enough majority in policy making, state, local, state, and federal, to be able to flip laws to their favor.
Thank you, Dr. Kirby.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. He talked about the religion will enter every house. And actually, that's from a hadith where Muhammad said that the religion would spread until it enters every house. So he's quoting Muhammad on that one.
What about when he goes into the God of Jesus, Moses, Abraham, and the last prophet Muhammad? Help our viewers understand. We've only got about 4 minutes next to our next break, and we can come back after that break.
Okay, just an overview. Islam teaches that Jesus was, actually the Quran says Jesus was not the Son of God. It's just that simple. And to claim that Jesus is the Son of God is committing shirk, which is the one unforgivable sin. Allah will not forgive that. The Quran also says Jesus was not crucified, but it was one of his disciples. The explanation is one of his disciples was made to look like Jesus. Jesus was taken up through the roof to paradise, and that disciple was crucified. The disciple was surrounded by the other disciples, which means Christianity. Then Islam teaches that Christianity is a false religion based on a fraud, because the disciples knew Jesus was not crucified, that it was somebody else hanging up on the cross. But for Muslims who know this, then they look at a crucifix or a picture of the crucifixion, and they see an imposter hanging up there on the cross. And then Muhammad said Jesus would return to earth. And Muslims love to say, oh, we all believe Jesus will return to earth. Well, that's true, but why is he returning? Muhammad said that Jesus will return to earth to destroy Christianity, among other things. He will live for 40 years, and during those 40 years, Jesus will rule by the Quran, and then Jesus will die, and the Muslims will pray over him. So that's not the Christian Jesus by any means.
Annie, anything you want to add to that?
No, pretty much that's the Jesus he's naming, or every time a Muslim names Jesus, it is not our Lord and Savior. It's the fake and phony Jesus they made for Quran.
And that's something that all of our viewers need to understand. Brandon and Bill Fetter, and you were part of this, Dr. Kirby. Back in 2006, we were talking about Islam. We were warning folks in Iowa. I think we were one of the first groups to go out and be doing it. And we were talking about Chrislam. Remember?
Yeah, that's right.
Brandon termed it Chrislam, I think. That is the mixing. And when we see the Pope and we see the King, in UK together, and now we hear that the Vatican has a prayer room where Muslims can come. Is that, Annie? Is that accurate?
Here's the thing. I have heard that. I have not been able to actually confirm that information, but I have heard from few different sources that they do have a Islamic prayer room for Muslims to do their prayer. However, I have not confirmed it.
Dr. Kirby, have you confirmed it through your?
Yes, unfortunately, it's true. I've seen it on Vatican News, some other sources, and it's supposedly the Vatican Library has all kinds of books and ancient Quran, stuff like this. And so it surprised me. Muslim scholars were coming to visit the Vatican Library, and they complained they didn't have any place to pray. So a decision was made. Okay, well, we'll throw a rug on a floor and give them a prayer room, which I was shocked. It's tragic.
I mean, I can see the evangelical. We want them to come read the truth. Hopefully some of them might convert. I get all that, but you're allowing them to pray to a false God. And that's that's the spiritual war that's at the root of all of this. That's why we're in the midst that we are in. Annie, I can see you poised to say something. I have to go to break. Can it wait?
1 second. They're not praying to false God. They're praying to Satan.
Ooh. There you go. From a Sharia survivor, Annie and Dr. Stephen Kirby, author of 6 books. We'll be right back. On Islam, by the way. We'll be right back.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
I'm not sure if that's my favorite commercial. I think it's he's speaking such truth about Brandon, our founder. All right, we always tell you about Numi. Numi, NUMI.com/TTSS. I've got it upside down. The lavender is for ladies. Anywhere along your journey, helps you peri, post, pre-menopause, whatever it may be. There are no hormonal supplements, though you might want to check with your doctor if you're taking such. The blue has the glutathione, which is something I didn't even know about, but glutathione helps you with 400 cellular functions. It is an antioxidant, and it detoxes heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those new chemical ingredient things we learned about. And then it also detoxes glyphosate. The good glutathione detoxes glyphosate. And glyphosate, there are concerns. It's in ag products. There are concerns with links to HPPs, diabetes, and cancers. So the good glutathione helps detox glyphosate, graphene oxide, heavy metals, and forever chemicals. Now, it's also less expensive than the glutathione IVs that people are using, and it's more consistent because you take it every day. The mango colored bottle there on your screen is a Numi Neural. It helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. A lot of people started talking about brain fog, another new concept we hadn't heard about until 4 or 5 years ago. Whether it's from a vaccine or a virus, this Numi Neuro helps alleviate that, helps with mind, memory, and focus. When used with the blue bottle, the results were so good that the American Brain Council wrote about it, and people thought it was an endorsement, but they don't write endorsements. It was just such a positive review. More information at NUMI.com/TTSS. NUMI.com/TTSS. They are simple mouthwashes, swish and swallow is what I call them. It's a NutriSwish. You don't spit it out, you swallow it, and it does more good in your system. There you go, NUMI.com/TTSS, because we want you feeling your best. When you use that link, you help us as well. All right, I'm with Anni, Cyrus, Sharia survivor, as well as Dr. Stephen Kirby. And I think in the very first link there I gave you was to all of Dr. Kirby's books. If you want to pop that up, Thomas, if you can do that, it's just Amazon, but it's all 6 of his books right there for all of the viewers to see. If you can, there you go. Excellent. And Dr. Kirby, I remember when you wrote the first paper on Barack Obama in Cairo, Egypt, and I had you on a little terrestrial radio station to talk about it. And then I didn't let you be. I kept dragging you all over the state of Iowa to talk about Islam and Sharia law. And so
we had a great time. And I always wanted to go first because I was the boring one, and you livened the crowd up. And if you went first, then the crowd fell asleep on me. So we had a great time.
It is true and not true. You are academic. You are factual. You won't say anything that you haven't gotten from an imam, the hadith, the Quran. You can justify and verify everything you say. And I like to connect the dots, and I do like to stir it up a bit. All right. So I like to help people understand how it comes from what you're talking about to everyday life. Help people recognize it. I.e., when we were talking yesterday about the 3rd graders, 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds being taught to have sex. They're putting it through health, not sex ed, so parents can't opt out of it. So every child's going to hear that. And my point yesterday was, even if that's well intended, and it's not, but it puts these girls in a place to be a victim, and someone who is a predator is going to use that as loophole. And Annie, what is the age that young girls can marry in Islam?
There is no age. You can be married off as 1 hour old, but the marriage shall not be consummated until the girl turns 9.
There you go. And I don't
Because
know.
remember, Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6.
Oh.
And there are hadith showing that though he did not consummate the marriage until she was 9, but he did do other stuff to her while she was under 9.
Horrific either way. And the people yesterday felt like this was not the purpose of this. In fact, many in the Muslim community up there helped them fight the gender identity and etc. and have come against a lot of the terrible teaching in sex ed. But to me, there's always someone who will take advantage of a loophole, of a bad law, and this grooms these kids. All right.
I'm sorry. Can I? Since you say you like to stir things up, can I just say something for anyone who might think there's no hidden agenda? This is Michigan, right? We're talking Michigan.
Yeah.
The very people who think helped Americans in Michigan with the, transgenders and all of that. Remember, they also had a clinic that was mutilating little girls.
Yes.
Just because they disagree with your way of mutilating doesn't mean they don't do their own way of mutilating. If it's the Sharia way, then we agree with it. If it's not a Sharia way, then we disagree with it. That's their game.
Excellent point, Annie. And I can't believe I didn't think about that because I fought the FGM, the female genital mutilation. We have fought those for years. I can't believe I didn't think about it. Thank you, Annie, for making that point.
You're welcome.
All right.
That's what I'm here for.
And I tell my viewers, this is where I learn. This is my classroom. My studio is my classroom. All right, so let's go forward. The reason I called Dr. Kirby before we knew we were going to be talking about elections, we knew it was the day after, was that several legislators at the state level and the federal level they've got bills forward to ban Sharia law. So we have Florida State Representative Hillary Castle. If you want to go to the photo there at 4 for me, Thomas, photo 4, she's got a statement out about banning Sharia law. And she is a new Republican. She was a Democrat until 2024 December. So there's a positive as well. But she has a bill to ban. As a Jewish woman, she knows exactly what's at stake when hatred and extremism are allowed to creep into our society. And so she says the bill draws a hard, immovable line. Florida's laws are written by Americans for Americans and not by foreign ideologues who reject freedom and deny basic human rights. All right, so there's her bill. There's other state legislators who are doing the same. Abbott did sign something saying no foreign, was it development? I'll have to go back and look at that one. And so then let's go to 5. 5 is more on her. Let's go to Senator Cornyn and Tommy Tuberville. Let's go to 7. The little photo there at 7. Tuberville. Oh, that's a different one than I have. Okay, that is on up at 8. Very good. Tommy Tuberville is pushing for a nationwide ban on Sharia law, saying American laws should always come first. I think we all can agree upon that. Joining him is Congressman Randy Fine, has a companion bill in the U.S. House. So there's U.S. House, U.S. Senate, and several state houses across the country. Either one of you, Dr. Kirby, I'll ask you first this time. What do you think? Yeah,
and actually there's another bill. It's Chip Roy. He's a congressman from Texas. And this is to amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to prohibit the entry of aliens who adhere to Sharia law and for other purposes. So that's a different approach to it. I understand what they're trying to do, but my concern is it's too sweeping of a statement. Because I went through Reliance of the Traveler. It's a classic manual of Islamic sacred law. And Sharia law includes purification, personal hygiene issues, prayer, how many times you pray a day, what's required when you do the prayers, dietary restrictions, rules for fasting, rules and procedures for the different pilgrimages, rules for inheritance, marriage, and divorce. And if somebody's going to say, let's ban Sharia, how do you answer this when somebody asks, well, okay, Sharia includes dietary restrictions. Why should my dietary restrictions be banned? So the problem I see with this effort is too broad. And when you get right down to, when you get right down to it, other aspects of Sharia, like, the death penalty for apostasy, stoning adulterers, this kind of stuff, it's already illegal in the United States. So I'm not quite sure if they could get this through. Well, I don't think they can get it through, because when people start asking, wait a second, you mean my dietary restrictions are illegal now? You mean I can't wash my feet before I pray? Stuff like that. And I think that's the weakness of this effort, to just say, let's ban Sharia.
All right. So to me, I'm thinking they can still practice it. They can still believe it. We're just not going to be under its rule. We're going to be under the Constitution. Annie, what's your thought on that?
I agree with Dr. Kirby. I do. And I'm going to I'm going to use exactly what you just used. Funny enough, it's always right in front of me, the reliance of the traveler. What it says in the book, on the cover, Reliance of the Traveler, a classic manual of Islamic sacred laws. I don't think we need anybody to push any bill or legislation. Under our Constitution, practice of any foreign law that is against the Constitution is already forbidden. This book is a collection of laws that some goes against our law. We just need somebody to enforce it. We don't need to put the time and effort to pass a new bill. We just need to do the distinction. Yes, there are certain laws described in this book that is a normal life of a Muslim. However, within the same book, on chapter O, it flat out says jihad is obligatory to all Muslims, and jihad means to wage war against non-Muslims. What do we do with that? Those who would like to continue following Sharia are more than welcome to get federal funding and get a one-way ticket to some Islamic country. I know it sounds radical, but we can't say, okay, you can follow this part of your Islamic law and then not that part of it. Considering majority of the Islamic law goes against our Constitution, it goes against First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, all the way to the end. We need to we don't need anybody to go get a new bill passed. It's already within our Constitution that nobody's allowed to practice foreign laws. We just need to enforce that.
It's a little bit like the gender identity argument. We shouldn't have had to argue how many sexes there were, but we did.
Exactly.
We had
exactly.
Because we're at in a nation. And so we did have to put those bills up in certain states. So I do kind of like the idea of reaffirming the Constitution, though I agree with what you're saying. At the same time, I'll come back if we're just having a little bit of a discussion here. We did, was it Utah, that to become a state, we told them that they had to do away with polygamy. That they could not support that as a state to become a state of the part of the United States. So we have taken things out of other faiths and said you can't have this before.
Wasn't polygamy already illegal in the United States?
But the Mormon, in Utah, somehow before they became a state, we said they had to embrace that teaching.
You're absolutely right. But the thing was, polygamy was already illegal. And it's just like what Annie's talking about and what I'm talking about. The idea of killing apostates, stoning adulterers, that's part of Sharia law, but it's illegal in the United States already. So if any Muslim would try to do something like that in the United States, they would be arrested and charged with murder, whatever was irrelevant. But there's something else like Chip Roy's bill here. See, he goes beyond just banning Sharia. See, the first statement in general, Secretary of State, Secretary of Homeland Security, and Attorney General, as applicable, shall deny any immigration benefit, visa, immigration relief, or admission to the United States to any alien who adheres to Sharia law.
Repeat that part, because we're not doing it.
Yeah, well, it says in general, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Homeland Security, and Attorney General, as applicable, shall deny any immigration benefit, visa, immigration relief, or admission to the United States to any alien who adheres to Sharia law. Okay, so a Muslim wants to come in and say, "Hey, I wash my feet before prayer. I pray 5 times a day. That's part of my Sharia." So you're going to ban them from coming in the United States because of that? See, this is the problem with this blanket Sharia law.
But to Annie's point, you may think that they're just washing their feet and they're nice Muslim, but when it comes, they'll be activated or deactivated and be part of the enemy too. So,
well, that's a separate issue, though, because basically, I mean, you talk about a Muslim ban. Chip Roy's proposed bill right here is a Muslim ban. So, but it's banning them because of Sharia. And the thing is, like I said, diet, because of their diet, because of their inheritance rules, stuff like that, we're going to automatically ship them out or ban them from entering the United States.
Back to the military versus the political part. I don't know. We've got to go to a break again. Doggone it. We've got to go to a break. We'll be right back. And I'm going to play that video. I think it's number 2 for you, Thomas. We'll be right back.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, back with Dr. Stephen Kirby, Dr. Anni Cyrus. Anni Cyrus, a Sharia survivor. Let's go to that video first, Thomas. It is video 2, please.
This is what the left doesn't want you to know about the government shutdown and food stamps. Watch.
There are 42 million people in this country that need food stamps on a weekly basis. And we're saying people deliberately instead of Americans because most of the people that are on food stamps aren't even from this country. 45% of Afghanistan immigrants are on food stamps. 42% of Somali immigrants, 34% of every immigrant from Iraq, 23% of Haitians, 59% of all illegal aliens are collecting food stamps, meaning that most of the people getting food stamps from the U.S. government and the U.S. taxpayer are not even Americans. Think about that. And we didn't know about any of this before the government shutdown started, but thanks to Democrats, we can confirm tonight that millions of Joe Biden illegal aliens, people who crossed the border when Joe was president, are now collecting food stamps from a program funded by hardworking American taxpayers.
And that is why we are in day, whatever it is, 39, I think, of the government shutdown, because Democrats are determined to use American citizens' tax dollars, hard-earned money out of the pockets of Americans trying to feed their own families, trying to buy their own health insurance in premiums, when we're told that Pritzker allows it free health care for illegal aliens, that illegal aliens have priority in Illinois for housing, which is also a constitutional issue, and 120,000 of them in Illinois are on welfare. This is the issue. So, Dr. Kirby, when you're saying we should not be doing this, I'm saying we already are. And so this is why I think, as much as I'm hearing you both on this bill, and I'm like, doggone it, because I wanted to see these bills affirm our Constitution is the only law of the land.
Well, actually, that's been affirmed for a couple of hundred years now. Whether elected officials act on it or not is another issue. But then that's the responsibility of the voters. We've got to hold our elected officials accountable to the Constitution. But my point with this, the Sharia bills, I think they're too broad. And because they are so broad, I don't think they have any chance of passing because of what I talked about before. Because somebody washes their feet, they pray 5 times a day. That's bad. I mean, it's part of the part of Islam. But my approach would be forget about the Sharia law aspect. Educate people about the reality of Islam. What does Islam really teach? And like I said, on October 7th, 2023, we saw what Islam teaches with what Hamas did in Israel. And we need to focus on that. Or you look at Nigeria, the tens of thousands of Christians that are being slaughtered in Nigeria. And finally, thank God, President Trump said something a couple of days ago, and Nigeria was designated a nation of particular concern.
Yep.
But we need more elected officials. And I'll tell you what, we need pastors to start standing up and taking on religion, taking on Islam as a religion. And in fact, I wrote about that. It was writing about a new black robe regiment. Our pastors have to stand up, start speaking about what's happening to our Christian brethren overseas and what's happening here. What Muslims are saying in the mosques around the United States. I did a report about that earlier this year. It's unbelievable. These imams are in the mosques speaking in English, talking about killing Jews, destroying Israel, support for terrorists, praising these terrorist organizations. This has been going on for years, and nobody, well, maybe 1 or 2 people, but nobody's saying anything about it. We need a black robe regiment. We need our pastors to start standing up and calling out Islam for what it is.
We've been saying that for decades. Annie, we've got a couple minutes left. I'll give you a chance to get your words in. And my thoughts are, when I hear the mayor out of Dearborn, Michigan, telling a tax-paying constituent, you need to move, you're an Islamophobe, simply because he didn't want a street sign from someone who supposedly honored terrorists. And so for me, it's not whether someone washes their feet. It's that I don't want to see a city or a state under Sharia law. I think that's the issue for people. Annie, last words.
I'm gonna go extremely radical here. As an Iranian American, Sharia survivor, Christian, days of being nice in America is over. We need to stop any legal or illegal immigration into the country for at least 5 years and clean house here in America. If your alliance is with Islam, you cannot be in America, even if you were born in America. Show me one Islamic country that gives asylum to any Christian or any Jew, and I will gladly take some Muslims into America.
And to your point of those Muslims seeking asylum here, why don't they go to a country that is Islamic? Right?
Exactly.
All right.
Immigration. Yeah, the Hijra.
All right. Anything before we go? We've got a minute left. Any last word quickly?
If it's okay for me to plug my Substack, for anyone who wants to know the difference between Jesus of Nazareth versus Jesus of Islam, there's a long expose on my Substack, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. You'll see the Quranic and Islamic teaching of Jesus versus our Bible, and that should help you start understanding the difference of their Jesus versus our Lord and Savior. Liveuptofreedom.substack.com.
Live up to freedom.
.substack.com.
And Dr. Stephen Kirby, islamseries.org. Thank you both for joining me today. I enjoy the discussion. I just enjoy the discussion, and I wish we had a call-in line, or we could just hear from our viewers on a text line where were they at in our discussion on Sharia law. It would be interesting. But thank you both. Annie, you lived it, you survived it. Dr. Kirby, you studied it, and you've written about it. Thank you both for joining me today on the Tamara Scott Show. Tomorrow, Congressman Steve King joins me, and we are talking about Nigeria. Judd Saul, we have a video we're going to try and get played for you tomorrow. As you know, his work that we've done there. We were thanking, I think it was Congressman Riley Moore, who is asking and urging the president to designate the CPC for Nigeria. We've been following this for, again, decades. And so talking about the numbers of deaths there, 6,000 in the first 6 months of 2018, 7,000 up to date this month. And I put out a question and inquired to several people. We have the numbers that were killed by communism in the last 100 years. I'd like the numbers killed by jihad or Islam in the last 100 years, but I don't know how you possibly do that, because it's not just a mass killing like we saw with Mao or Stalin. It's honor killings. It's just all of the voluntary jihad acts we've seen even in our own nation. Join us tomorrow, Steve King, our congressman. But as we tell you, live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and do not be complacent. Be active.
Two years ago, whatever was 100% of my traffic to my website, it's been crashed by 95%. That's stunning.